What's going on, YouTube family? I just tried to make this video, but it didn't. It didn't work. Yeah, I'm still trying to get over this cold, or this flu, or whatever. So excuse me. Also, excuse me if I say some off the wall shit because I've been drinking. So, with that being said, before I start this video, no, I no longer smoke. I've been sober for 2 months. Shit. That's wrong. I've been sober for 2 years and a few months. I want to say about 2 years, 10 months, 2 years, 11 months. Um, but my point of saying that is that I don't see a problem, or I don't have a problem with, as far as marijuana and alcohol goes. I don't see a problem with smoking and drinking as long as you do it in moderation. So with smoking, I didn't see myself as having a problem with smoking because uh at first, like when I first started smoking, I wasn't a heavy smoker. I wasn't a habitual smoker. But as time went on and I grew older, I started to become a habitual smoker. But also, as time went on and I grew older, I started to use marijuana as a tool to guide me and help me understand certain spiritual aspects, to help me understand certain scriptures and things of that nature, to where I wouldn't normally grasp it if I was sober. So it's all about moderation. In the Bible, in the scriptures, it talks about drinking strong drink, which is basically alcohol. It talks about drinking wine, but it also tells you that you shouldn't drink to get drunk. Basically, you should always strive to remain sober minded, but it also talks about the necessity or the need for strong drink, which is alcohol, which means, in my opinion, that in certain instances, in certain cases, we all need something a little stronger than what we're used to be able to understand and to grasp certain aspects of reality that we wouldn't normally be able to understand. So, if I'm explaining something to you about reality that doesn't click with you because it's just, in your mind, it's so far-fetched, excuse me, but in your mind it's just so far-fetched, or it's just so unreal or so surreal that it doesn't make plausible sense or possible sense. If you were under the influence of alcohol or under the influence of marijuana, you would more easily grasp the truth of what I'm speaking. And a lot of people might see that as um, being deceived, or as it being something deceitful. Like, maybe you're just thinking this because you're high, or maybe you're just thinking this or saying this because you're drunk or because you're high. But in most instances, that's not the case. In majority of the instances, we can only grasp certain aspects of reality because we're high, or because we're drunk or tipsy. because being tipsy is as close to being sober minded as you can be while still being under the influence of alcohol. So you should never drink to get drunk. You should always, I'm not going to say you should always drink to get tipsy, but you should always drink to a certain level of peace and comfortability. You should always know your limits. When you're younger, like I know I did when I was younger, when you're younger, you drink to have fun. And then you drink so much to where you throw up, or you drink so much to where you black out and you don't remember majority of the night or whatever. And you you just have bad memories about the last time you drunk. But as time progresses and you mature, you understand that you have to have moderation. So you start to drink less, but you're still able to retain your cognizance. You're still able to retain your consciousness, and you're still able to have fun with your peers, with your friends, the people around you. So the same goes for spiritual research and your spiritual journey. If you feel like you're not grasping it as a soberly minded person, or as a sober person, then by all means, you should use some type of tool that you feel like would help you grasp and understand what you're researching. That could be marijuana, that could be alcohol. I never advocate trying anything outside of those two, because I'll tell anybody quick that I'm not gonna take anything that's gonna make me hallucinate. So I'm not taking mushrooms, I'm not taking acid, no, none of that shit. So marijuana, alcohol. Marijuana and alcohol is what's most commonly used in the scriptures. They might try to tell you that marijuana is not in the scriptures, but marijuana is actually in the scriptures. And I might one day do a video on it. But alcohol for sure is in the scriptures. So whatever you feel like helps you understand the reality of things, because in all actuality, the truth is more stranger than fiction. Reality is more stranger than anything that they can think of in fiction, because majority of what they come out with in these fictional novels or these movies, these sci-fi movies and stuff like that, is based on reality. Some aspect of reality. It's just a what if scenario. But the fact that it's a what if scenario doesn't mean that it's that less possible. It just hasn't happened yet, or it just hasn't happened in our lifetime that we know of. So I just wanted to get that out of the way before I start this video. But excuse me, this video is basically about holidays and why I don't celebrate them. So we all know that Christmas is tomorrow. New Year's is coming up. Thanksgiving just passed. Halloween just passed. Valentine's Day. Wooty 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 woo. So, excuse me. Why don't I celebrate these holidays? Let's start with Halloween. Halloween, I don't celebrate Halloween because it's basically nowadays about trick-or-treating, dressing up, getting drunk, getting high with your peers, going out partying, trick or treating. I think I said that already. It's just there's no real substance to the holiday for it to be a national holiday that everybody celebrates, in my opinion. I mean, I know it's cool for the kids to, dress up and get out and and trick or treat for candy and stuff like that. But as far as adults, like majority of adults don't trick or treat. They just dress up and go party. They just get drunk as they can and high as they can, and then they go to work the next day, or they go to work that Monday, or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? So the true origins of Halloween is the Day of the Dead, which is I don't want to say the wrong word because YouTube might strike the video or something. So um it's more of a Latino Hispanic holiday. It didn't start with Hispanics, but that's what we equate it to, the Day of the Dead. So they would dress up and mask and celebrate the Day of the Dead and so on and so forth. I'm not going to get too far into it. But that's where the origins of Halloween came from. But it didn't start with Hispanics and Latinos. So, Easter. Why don't I celebrate Easter? Easter is not the resurrection day. Easter has nothing whatsoever to do with the rise of Christ. And as with all holidays, they've made it about the kids. They've made it about the Easter bunny. They've made it about Easter egg hunts. They've made it about dressing up, going to church, saying Easter speeches, and getting candy. But it all started with the premise of it being Resurrection Day, the resurrection of Christ, which it is not. Which brings me to Christ Mass. Not Christmas or Christmas, but Christ Mass. Why don't I celebrate Christ Mass? Because, for one, we should all know by now that Christ Mass is not the true birthday of the Messiah or the Mashiach or of Christ. It is not the day that Christ was born. What is Christ Mass actually? Christ Mass. You have to split those words up because when you put them together, you get Christmas with Christ being the prefix and then Mass being the suffix. But if you separate the two words, Christ and Mass, you have two separate words, which brings about a broader meaning to the word Christmas, which is Christ and Mass. Christ and Mass means that they are celebrating the mass awakening of Christ, which, if I haven't said in other videos, Christ is consciousness. Christ actually means consciousness. Christ is not an actual name. Christ is a title, which means to be conscious. Christ is a consciousness. So to be Christ is to be conscious, or to be Christ is to have a certain level of consciousness. The Mass is exactly what it sounds like, a mass number of people or a mass number of objects, a mass number of whatever. We all know what a mass is. Mass is fundamental in science and anatomy, and anatomy is a part of science. So, but the point being that Christ's mass is supposed to be a mass awakening or mass rising of consciousness of Christ. It is not the actual day that Christ was born. And truth be told, it has nothing to do with the birth of Christ. The actual holiday that was celebrated before Christ's Mass was Saturnalia. Saturnalia is the worship of the Roman god Saturn, which is the Greek god Kronos, which is the Titan or the all-father of the Olympians in Greek mythology. He is the Titan that ate all of his children except for Zeus or Jesus or Jesus. And then Jesus actually made him spit up his brothers and sisters. So Saturn is also the god of time. Well, in Roman mythology, his name is Saturn. In Greek mythology, his name is Kronos, the god of time. But Saturn and Kronos are also the god of death. So they celebrated Saturnalia on this day. They worshipped and celebrated the god of time and the god of death on this day. Saturn. It has nothing to do with Christ whatsoever, except for the fact that, excuse me, except for the fact that they celebrate on this day because it is the day that Christ was crucified, or the day that Christ was so-called killed or crucified on the cross. How do I know this? I researched it. Can I do it now? No, I cannot. Can you do it for yourself? Yes, you can. So, let's see. My bad for Facebook. My bad for all of the other naughty things that you guys shouldn't be seeing on my phone. Saturnalia. Wow. I didn't even have to type in the whole word. Saturnalia was an ancient Roman festival in honor of the god Saturn, held on December 17th of the Julian calendar, and later expanded with festivities through to December 23rd. The holiday was celebrated with a sacrifice at the Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum and a public banquet, followed by private gift-giving, continually partying, and a carnival atmosphere that overturned Roman social norms. Gambling was permitted, and masters provided table service for their slaves, as it was seen as a time of liberty for both slaves and freed men alike. A common custom was the election of a king of the Saturnalia, who would give orders to people, which were to be followed, and preside over the merrymaking. The gifts exchanged were usually gag gifts or small figurines made of wax or pottery known as sigillaria. The poet Catullus called it the best of days. Saturnalia was the Roman equivalent to the earlier Greek holiday of Chronia, which was celebrated during the Attic month of Hecatombion in late midsummer. It held theological importance for some Romans who saw it as a restoration of the ancient Golden Age when the world was ruled by Saturn. The Neoplatonist philosopher Porphyry, I hate trying to say these names, Porphyry interpreted the freedom associated with Saturnalia as symbolizing the freeing of souls into immortality. Saturnalia may have influenced some of the customs associated with later celebrations in Western Europe occurring in midwinter, particularly traditions associated with Christ Mass, the Feast of the Holy Innocents, and Epiphany. In particular, the historical Western European Christmas custom of electing a Lord of Misrule may have its roots in Saturnalia celebrations. So, what is that saying? I might have went a little too fast, and I might have stumbled over myself. But if you read along, or if you could just understand what the hell I was saying, what was the point of all of that? What was the meaning of all of that? The meaning of that was that even though it said it was from December 17th to December 23rd, it also said that later Roman Catholic celebrations had their roots in Saturnalia, including Christmas. Meaning what? Christmas originated from Saturnalia. Christmas has its roots in Saturnalia, which is the worship of Saturn. And I really want to make another video about what I'm finna speak about next. But I'm going to try to condense it into this video right now. So what I want to say next is that there are many gods, or a few gods at least, in the Bible that are being symbolized. We don't know it. Well, I know it because I read. But if you don't know the symbols of these gods, then you won't know it. There are many gods in the scriptures that are being symbolized. There are many gods in the scriptures that are being worshipped. Why is that? When we all know for a fact that we should be worshiping one God, the Most High. The fact of the matter is that the Hebrews, or the Israelites, were the Most High's chosen people, right? They were priests among the people of the earth. Meaning what? Their task was to bring people to the light and the truth of the one God, the one Most High. But when you have a people, no matter if it's in earlier times, latter times, or in the present day, when you have people that are not good at comprehending outside of themselves, if they're not good at comprehending what's in front of them, they're not able to think on a higher scale. They're not able to think past themselves or past this physical world. you have to break it down in such a way when you're teaching to them. You have to break it down in such a way to where they can understand and comprehend what it is you're trying to say or what it is you're trying to teach. So, in ancient times, I'm going to use the word ancient. In ancient times, in biblical times, excuse me, in biblical times, you had a larger number of people that couldn't comprehend or understand the aspect of the Most High, one God. So, in order to compensate and be able to reach these people on their level, the Hebrews had to break it down in such a way to where they could understand. It's just like if you're not good at math and you're trying to understand a math equation, this teacher is going to break it down to you in its most simplest form until you can understand it, until you can grasp it. The same goes for spirituality. The Most High is so grand and so infinite that most people can't grasp him in one sitting, in one teaching. They can't grasp him in one in one equation. So you have to break the equation down. So you have the creation story. This is the best example. You have the creation story. You have one being, one God, one, what's another word for God? Because I don't like using God. One superior being, or one superior being that creates all life, not just on Earth, but the sun, the moon, and the planets, right? You can't grasp that. So you break it down a little bit. You break it down to there's one creator God, but that God created other gods. He created Saturn, he created Neptune, created Mars, created Venus, created Earth, created Mercury, created the moon, created the sun. You can't grasp that. So you break it down even further. There's one God. That God created Saturn, Mercury, Mars, Neptune, Uranus, blah, 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 blah. You get to the sun and you get to the moon. The sun is what brings us light, but it also gives us life. If we didn't have the sun, we wouldn't have life on Earth. We wouldn't have plants. We wouldn't have animals. We wouldn't have a source of light, etc., etc. So this is about as simple as you can get it. But yet, and still, people still don't understand it. And what do? They start worshiping the sun instead of the creator of the sun. And this is what you have with the Romans and the Greeks. And not just the Romans and the Greeks, but a lot of other cultures in ancient times. You have them all worshiping the creation instead of the creator. They try to explain it and break it down to its simplest form, and yet they still couldn't grasp it. So now you have people worshiping Saturn, you have people worshiping Neptune, you have people worshiping Venus, you have people worshiping Mars, you have people worshiping the sun, you have people worshiping the moon, you have, and so on and so forth. You have people worshiping the constellation and the stars, and it gets out of hand. So instead of these people giving thanks to the Most High, to the one creator that created all of these things, you have them praying to, worshiping, and sacrificing to everything that was created, which is why you have a worship of money, which is why you have a worship of idols, whether they be human, whether they be statues, whether they be excuse me, whether they be made of gold, silver, wood, paper. This is where idol worship comes from. The planets themselves are the idols. They are heavenly bodies. They are angels created by the Most High. But yet and still, you have a certain number or a certain amount of people that don't understand that creation didn't stop or start with them. Creation most certainly didn't start with them. Is the most powerful aspect for them to grasp. So you have people sacrificing to them, making holidays to them, so on and so forth. Easter, like I said, it has nothing to do with the resurrection of Christ. Easter is actually a holiday in honor of a Hebrew queen named Esther. A lot of people want to say it's what you call it, a holiday in honor of the Egyptian god Ishtar, but it's not. It's actually a holiday in honor of the Hebrew queen Esther, and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people would like to, especially a lot of Hebrews that aren't awakened, a lot of Hebrews that aren't in touch with who they are yet. They would like to believe that all of these Roman and Greek gods were basically copied from Egyptian gods, which is true in a way, but even the Egyptian gods are only aspects of the one God. If you want to break down how infinite the one God is, or you want to break down the many aspects of the one God, you break it down and you simplify it in a way that people can understand. And the way that the Hebrews tried to do this is to break the one God down into many gods, but all of these gods were the aspect of the one God. This is why you always have one central deity, which is supposed to be the father or the progenitor of the other gods. Zeus is supposed to be the all father of the Olympians, even though the Titans were before the Olympians. Jupiter is supposed to be the all father of the Roman gods. Uh, Ra, sometimes Osiris, but in majority of mythology, Ra is supposed to be the all father of the Egyptian gods, sometimes called Heru. But my point being is you always have that one central figure. And these mythologies will tell you that these other gods are supposed to be aspects of the one God. Whoever that one central figure is, whoever that one central God is, the other gods are supposed to be aspects of that one God. So it doesn't matter what mythology it is, Roman, Egyptian, Greek, Sumerian, Aztec, Mayan, Incan, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter what mythology it is. The point is that all of these gods are supposed to be aspects of the Most High, the one true creator. All of these gods have different aspects to themselves, different things that make them stand out. But more importantly, and moreover, they are only aspects of the one creator, of the Most High. And that's the best way I can explain it for people to grasp it. And that was the best way for Hebrews at the time to explain it to the Gentiles and to others on the earth, for them to grasp it. And ultimately, we see that it didn't work. And it might not ever work, because even though they are only certain aspects of the one God, they are still deities in their own rights. They are still created beings. They are still heavenly bodies. They are still angels. But they are not meant to be worshipped. If you do your research on the angels of the Most High, and when they used to come and talk to man, you would know and you would see that they were not to be worshipped. They were not meant to be worshipped. They were only meant to guide man or mankind on their journey to returning to the Most High. But a lot of people won't understand, and a lot of people won't grasp that. So, with that being said, excuse me, I'm actually glad this video didn't run long, because I could have kept going. I could have brought scriptures. I could have went to Wikipedia and brought out so much information about individual deities that are being worshipped still to this day with these holidays and stuff like that. But I'm gonna leave it where it is. And I want people to actually research these things for themselves. I want people to research these deities I want people to research these holidays that are being celebrated behind these deities still to this day. I want people to research the symbols associated with these deities and then read the scriptures and notice the symbols in the scriptures for yourselves. Notice when they're talking about eagles, they're talking about Zeus, and when they're talking about this, they're talking about Venus, and when they're talking about this, they're talking about Saturn, and like it gets deep. But like I always say, you have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to think outside of the box and step outside of your comfort zone. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Hopefully you stay with me through the whole video. You enjoyed watching the video. And with that being said, hopefully it won't be too long until I make another video. Thank you guys for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave comments, anything whatsoever. It don't matter. As long as you tuning in and as long as you bring others to the light and to the truth. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.